Alright, sing that. Happy birthday to Daddy.
We are hearing the voice of disgraced music mogul Sean Diddy Combs for the first time in a long time as he spends his 55th birthday behind bars. Far cry from the lavish parties that he'd become famous for over the years, but Combs' 7 children made sure they wished their dad a happy birthday and posted a video of this phone conversation. We're going to take a closer look at that video, the harsh conditions Combs faces inside of one of New York's most notorious jails, and what is next in his sex trafficking and racketeering case. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Sean Diddy Combs, the one-time reportedly billionaire rapper who started Bad Boy Records back in the 90s, remained a cultural touchstone for decades. Well, he was locked up on his birthday, his 55th birthday. Yep, he turned 55 on Monday, and the celebrations were a lot more low-key than he's likely used to. Combs was, as we know, famous for his swanky white parties, which were attended by just about every celebrity you can think of, but it's his private parties that have since gotten him into trouble with the law because, according to prosecutors with the Southern District of New York, Combs allegedly used his wealth, influence, power to coerce people into so-called freak-offs, these hours-long sex events that involved cameras, drugs, commercial sex workers, lots of lubricant, plethora of which was found in Combs' properties when they were searched by federal investigators back in March. But I have to be clear about something. I get asked this all the time. Why is group sex illegal, Jesse? Why is he being charged with this? Well, group sex is not illegal. It's not illegal. It becomes illegal if there's an element of coercion, if there's an element of force that was used or applied. It becomes illegal if you're engaging in prostitution, if you're transporting sex workers across state lines to participate in these sex events. That's why he is charged with sex trafficking. That's why he's charged with transportation to engage in prostitution. Now, Combs' defense team has suggested that this was all consensual. This was all on the up and up. That it might be a little bit weird, but everybody knowingly and clearly and actively participated in this. We actually did a separate sidebar on this story about a former Playboy model who claims that she engaged in a sex act with Sean Combs in Tokyo years ago. And it's important because while she says, look, I was tipsy, didn't really want to do this per se, it wasn't the kind of party I thought I was going to, because she said she shows up and he's just the only person there wearing a robe and holding champagne. What's important is she said nothing was forceful. No force was used. It's not like she was pressured or threatened or forced to do this against her will. And although I doubt that that example will make its way to Combs' criminal trial, I do think that that could be a blueprint for how defense attorneys will frame these sexual episodes. Again, that it was all consensual. Hey, by the way, any business owners out there watching us on Sidebar? Maybe those of you starting a side hustle? I mean, we did a whole show at one point on Diddy losing his business empire, but for those of you business owners or aspiring business owners, I gotta talk to you about our incredible sponsor, Odoo. So Odoo is a free all-in-one business management software that provides you with a range of applications that helps with the day-to-day of owning a business. I'll give you an example. I host and executive produce a show on YouTube called Prime Crime. It's on the Law&Crime YouTube page. Now check this out. With Odoo's website builder application, I can easily and for free build a Prime Crime website using their super easy to use tools like their AI copywriting and the drag and drop feature. Look how easy that was. Look how simple that was. 5 minutes later, boom, I now have primecrime.com. So thank you to Odoo for sponsoring Sidebar, and thank you for the new Prime Crime website. And you can build your own website right now too. The domain is free for the first year. Just use our link, odoo.com/LC-Sidebar1. Now, we also can't forget that Combs is also charged with racketeering conspiracy because investigators and prosecutors believe that his role atop multiple companies like Bad Boy Entertainment helped him run a criminal enterprise. An enterprise that engaged in kidnapping, forced labor, sex trafficking, bribery, and so forth. But those are the allegations put forward by prosecutors. But on top of the charges that he currently faces, Combs could potentially face more, because it is being reported that a federal grand jury in New York is hearing new evidence. In fact, it's being reported that the grand jury heard testimony from a witness who claims to have sex tapes of these assaults that features at least 8 different celebrities, including minors. And the issue, of course, when we talk about grand jury proceedings, is it's all secret. We won't know exactly what was said unless that witness testifies at Combs' trial. However, there's a caveat to that because we believe we know who this witness is. Courtney Burgess, being represented by attorney Ariel Mitchell-Kidd, gave a press conference outside of court, went on Banfield on News Nation last week. In fact, I'm dedicating a whole separate sidebar to this because Sean Combs' lawyers say because he is doing these interviews and making these statements, the court needs to step in right now. They need to silence potential witnesses and accusers from making out-of-court statements that could prejudice Sean Combs' case. You can check out that episode when it's up on Law&Crime's YouTube page. But the bigger issue here, what we're talking about, is that it is possible Sean Combs could see a superseding indictment with new charges. And if that happens, Combs' trial date will likely be pushed back. More discovery, more evidence, new charges, new witnesses, new defendants. Right now, his trial is scheduled for May 5th, 2025, but if he's hit with new charges, I got to imagine that gets pushed back. Now, putting aside the fact that Sean Combs, by law, is presumed innocent, and in fact, he hasn't even been found liable in any of the sexual assault civil lawsuits that he faces, Combs and his attorney, since the very beginning, have maintained his innocence. In fact, his lead counsel, Mark Agnifilo, pointed out that if there were sexual encounters, everything was consensual. And that claim, to go back to it, it's been challenged by multiple people in civil lawsuits, with some alleged victims even claiming that they were just children when they were assaulted. So yeah, if Sean Combs is hit with federal charges regarding minors, that consent defense doesn't work anymore. He'll just have to say, that never happened. But let's talk now about Sean Combs being locked up on his birthday, this video that is circulated. So as we know, Sean Combs has been denied bail multiple times. He's been denied pretrial release. And his attorneys, they are currently fighting for his release. They're trying to petition now the latest judge in this case, the Honorable Arun Subramanian, to hear arguments. But until that time, and unless he's released, he is behind bars at the Metropolitan Detention Center out in Brooklyn, New York. But Sean Combs' family has shown their support throughout this whole process. They have been going to court hearings. They have been posting on social media. In fact, 2 weeks ago, Quincy, Combs' adopted son, posted a photo of the family on Instagram that included Combs' mother, Janice, and his youngest child's mother, Dana Tran. And the post read, "The past month has devastated our family. Many have judged both him and us based on accusations, conspiracy theories, and false narratives that have spiraled into absurdity on social media. We stand united, supporting you every step of the way. We hold on to the truth, knowing it will prevail, and nothing will break the strength of our family. We miss you and love you, Dad." But it is a birthday phone call with Sean Combs on the other end that is getting a lot of attention right now. And to set the stage, Sean Combs, he shares 7 children with 4 different women. So the oldest in the group, Quincy Brown, isn't actually Combs' biological son, but he was later adopted. He's the son of Kim Porter and singer and songwriter and record producer Al B. Shore. He was named after his godfather, the legendary Quincy Jones, who, by the way, actually just passed away over the weekend. Combs' first biological child, who he had with fashion designer Misa Hilton, was born in 1993. We're talking about Justin Combs. He was thrust into the public spotlight in 2008 on MTV's My Super Sweet 16, where he was featured alongside his dad. Now we move on to Christian Combs. This was Diddy's first child with model Kim Porter. Christian, who goes by the name King Combs, has followed in his father's musical footsteps. He's launched a rap career of his own. He also does modeling. Chance Combs was born to Diddy and businesswoman Sarah Chapman, who was apparently Combs' friend at the time. The two never really publicly recognized their relationship. But just months later, Porter and Combs welcomed twin girls, Delilah and Jessie. But by this point, insiders say the relationship between Porter and Combs was basically over, but the two had co-parented up until Porter's death in 2018 when she died from pneumonia. Combs' youngest child is Love, who will turn 2 in December. Combs surprised fans with this announcement of her birth in 2022. Her mother, Dana Tran, is reportedly a cybersecurity specialist and model. But now that you know everybody involved, let's talk about what happened on Monday. Because Justin posted a 2-minute video of the children wishing their father a happy birthday on his 55th birthday. 6 of the kids were there with a birthday cake. Chance wasn't there, but she was on another phone. Here's how it went down.
Happy birthday to Daddy. Happy birthday.
Happy.
Keep going.
Happy birthday to
Daddy.
Keep going, love.
Happy birthday to Daddy.
Yay! We love you too.
Love you, Pops. We miss
I
you.
can't wait to see y'all.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see y'all.
Yes,
And I
sir.
just want to say I'm proud of y'all. I'm proud of y'all, especially the girls. I mean, all of y'all. But just for being strong. Thank y'all for being strong, and thank y'all for being by my side and supporting me. I love y'all. I got the best family in the world. My birthday, I'm happy. Thanks to y'all giving me this call. Thank you very much. I love y'all.
We love you
Love
more.
you
Too. Can't wait to
Love
see
you.
you in a couple of days.
I'll see y'all in a couple of days.
Say it again.
What you say?
I love you, Daddy.
Yeah.
I love you too, baby.
Again, it's just wild because this is really the first time that we have heard Sean Combs' voice. Since what? When he publicly apologized on Instagram back in May after CNN published the 2016 video of him beating his ex-girlfriend Cassandra Ventura in a hotel hallway? He made an apology. 2 days later? We heard him then. Haven't really heard him since. So to hear his voice, and honestly, what seemed to be joy as he's locked up, facing these very serious charges that could send him to prison for the rest of his life, kind of surprising to hear that tone in a way, no? But his lawyers have said, look, he's remained focused, he's remained positive. And by the way, several of his children, they have been visiting him at the Metropolitan Detention Center, or the MDC. But thinking about his tone on that call in light of where he's staying, I mean, his attorneys have previously called out the jail for its conditions.
Can you describe the conditions of the detention right now for us?
So the food is inedible from what I've been told. It's way too hot in the summer. Sometimes there's no heat at all in the winter. The toilet water has been known to freeze. It's violent. Someone like Mr. Combs, might be a target for certain things.
Yeah, MDC is one of New York's most notorious detention centers. In fact, one of the most notorious around the country. Just last week, the Bureau of Prisons announced an interagency sweep of the jail. Officials said the sweep had been pre-planned and didn't necessarily have anything to do with the fact that an A-list celebrity is being housed there, but Combs being locked up, you gotta say, certainly brings more attention to it. During that sweep, investigators seized drugs, homemade weapons, electronic devices, all this kind of contraband. This is all according to the Bureau of Prisons officials. The jail, which holds more than 1,000 inmates of both genders, has a long history of violence and drug use and contraband being smuggled in. 2 men were stabbed to death over the summer, led to murder charges. In another incident, 4 inmates and a guard were charged with assault after a man was stabbed 44 times. Lawsuits have been filed by inmates over the conditions as well. Back in 2019, inmates filed a $10 million class action lawsuit over frigid conditions during an 8-day blackout. R. Kelly, who'd been housed at the jail, sued for wrongfully putting him on suicide watch after his sentencing in 2022. Sam Bankman-Fried, his attorney, said that he survived on bread, water, and peanut butter after the jail refused to provide him vegan food. Apparently, the conditions within the jail are so bad, they're so severe, that at least one judge just flat out refused to impose a prison sentence if it meant the defendant was going to be confined at the MDC. Back in August, U.S. District Judge Gary R. Brown of the Eastern District of New York sentenced Daniel Colucci to 9 months of imprisonment after pleading guilty to charges of tax fraud. But in a written statement, Judge Brown said, if the Bureau of Prisons opts to designate the MDC as the relevant facility, then the imposed term of imprisonment will be vacated, and in its place, the defendant shall serve 9 months of home incarceration with electronic monitoring. That's quite a move. And when Combs was first locked up, there was also concern about his safety, in particular, especially after the death of Jeffrey Epstein at MDC's sister prison, the MCC, back in 2021. That has since closed. There were even reports that Combs was put on suicide watch for his own protection, although his attorneys have refuted that. Now, I had a chance to speak with Dr. Dwayne Hendricks. This is a retired senior warden with the U.S. Department of Justice and Federal Bureau of Prisons, and I wanted to know about the issues that prisons face when they're dealing with high-profile celebrities like a Jeffrey Epstein or a Sean Combs. These issues were happening for quite some time, but it feels like a spotlight was put on it because of Combs there. Is that a difficulty for prison staff to accommodate somebody of his status?
No, and I'll tell you why. I think the agency learned a big, hard lesson at the MCC. What happened with Mr. Epstein? There were 2 staff that were working that special housing unit that evening that were not correctional officers. They were there working overtime, and that case speaks for itself. But I think when Miss Maxwell was arrested and housed at MDC Brooklyn, the agency decided to put a little bit more focus on having additional staff assigned to her. And some of those staff may have even come from other facilities to make sure that, one, that all the needs are being met, that this person, if they are suicidal, if they are having any issues, all things will go well. And I believe there were briefings on a day-to-day basis in regards to her. So I think Mr. Combs is probably in a similar situation there at MDC Brooklyn, because the population when I worked there was over 3,000 inmates. Now it's 1,200. You have 2 big buildings, over 1 million square feet. So they have plenty of space there to house these particular individuals like Mr. Combs, to make sure, especially the high profile nature of this case, which is kind of similar to Mr. Epstein's. And I think it's very important that for, justice to be served either for the victims or for Mr. Combs, if he is somehow innocent of these charges, that the public gets to see a trial and that he gets to have his day in court. So I think in that sense, there's some heightened sense of awareness for this particular case.
And during Sean Combs' arraignment hearing in September on those charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, the transportation to engage in prostitution charge, prosecutors, they petitioned the court that Combs remain inside the MDC until trial. In a memo supporting this request, U.S. Attorney Damian Williams said that Combs is prone to violence, that he is a flight risk, that he poses a significant danger to the community. There were also allegations that he was reaching out to witnesses and alleged victims, providing them false narratives. But despite all that, as he fights his way out of jail and trying to get bail, he's currently locked up there. And to hear him on that phone call, seemingly in high spirits, it's interesting nonetheless. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.